There we go.
I tell you, I don't
All
know
right. All right, we'll do it this way here. Looks like we're gonna have to do it with the iPhone microphone because apparently the iPhone dongle was being a bit of a jerk. Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to the Blindside Podcast. I'm your host, Blind Metal Gamer, along with Missy Ryder from KSB. Welcome, Missy, to the Blindside Podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, so as you all know, it's back to school time, and it is time to engage in school once again. It is past Labor Day, and tonight's theme is kind of going back to school and KSB memories of starting school and all that. So, Missy, do you have any fond memories of KSB when you were younger? You know, registering for KSB, days of KSB, anything like that?
I just remember being, shocked. I mean, when I was 6 years old, going there and not knowing what to expect when my family dropped me off, and it was kind of a rude awakening. But there was some homesickness for a while. But after a while, got used to it. But my first memory would be of just homesickness and just trying to get used to everything.
Yeah, that kind of was the way it was for me too. I mean, I had that homesickness going on, and I think all kids that go, when they're young like that, 5, 6 years old, they're away from home, away from what they know. They're in a new place, a strange place. I remember, I remember when I was there, they dropped me off and they went back home, and there I was. So, Missy, when could you tell the listeners, when did you attend KSB?
When I was 6 years old, started in first grade, 1973, and then went through my junior year in 1984. And I went to public school my senior year.
Cool. For me, for the listeners who have not got a chance to know this, I went from 1988 to 2001. I started at the age of 5 at kindergarten, and then up through my junior year, and then I also attended my senior year at public school as well. So we kind of have a similar path, only a bit of a different starting point. What are your memories of the KSB dorm life at that time? What was it like for you back in 1973?
Well, it was different because Allen Cottage was the dorm that the younger girls stayed in from like 6 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have our own rooms. It was an open dorm,
Mm-hmm.
and we each had a bed, a nightstand, a chair, and a locker. And so there was probably 10 or 11 girls all in this just area, and you had one restroom, and there was 2 bathtubs and a restroom in just this one bathroom. So it's a wonder we all didn't kill each other, and a wonder we all got along as we did,
Oh yeah. When I went there in 1988, the dorms were different. We each had our own room. Each bathroom was interconnected between rooms. Is there any fun, since this is the Tuesday after Labor Day, do you have any fun stories of Labor Day weekend at KSB and what that was like for you?
It was most of the time I was home during that weekend. My mom's birthday is September 1st. So I think we always tried to have me home around that time. But I do remember one particular weekend staying at the dorm during Labor Day weekend with, I was one of the few students there, and Miss Berry, my house parent, and I spent a lot of time listening to the radio that weekend. Elvis Presley had died in 1977. And they had a tribute, and that went on all weekend. And I remember she and I listening to that together.
Nice. Let's see, and as I'm sure back in when you were there, it was much different as far as the weekends and whatnot. What was it like for you at KSB in the '70s? As far as the weekends are concerned, could you tell me and tell the other listeners out there who will be listening to this what it was like on the weekends at KSB back when you were there?
It was, at times it could be boring, but then it was fun too. I mean, we would all watch TV together. I mean, not all the students stayed. Some went home every weekend, and I usually went home, every other weekend. But we would watch TV together. We'd watch things like Hee Haw or whatever was on, and we'd listen to records.
Mm-hmm.
They had a record player in the dorm, and we'd listen to different records. And sometimes the house parent would fix popcorn for us on the at night, and we thought it was a big deal when I was little, because on Fridays and Saturday nights you could stay up till 10 o'clock, and so that was a big deal to us
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
Oh yeah, 10 o'clock bedtime. That was big
Yeah.
stuff. Okay. So what was it like? Okay, now we know about the weekend. What was it like during the week? How strict was it back in your era? This is back to school. So how strict was it during the school week? And what was it like? During the week. What were the expectations of you during the week at KSB?
Well, it was. I don't think it was any different than any normal. I mean, you had to, make your bed every day, and you had to, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had just the normal rules like you would have in public school about, uh, you know, being, behaving and that kind of stuff. And if you got in trouble, you'd be sent to study hall.
Oh, the dreaded
Yeah,
detention.
yeah.
Oh,
And,
um.
but it was, and after school during the week, they would have the rec hall open for an hour, and you could go there before
Mm-hmm.
supper and play air hockey or skate or bowl or do things like that. And then after supper, there was
Nice.
another hour of rec from, like, I don't know, 6 to 7 or whatever the time was. And then after that is when you could come home or back to the dorm and do your homework and take a bath that night so you wouldn't have to do it the next morning. And we had to be in bed by, I think, 9 o'clock.
Oh man. Now, when I was there, again, I was there from 1988 to 2001, so I got to see some changes too from that. And when I was younger, I remember very specifically 8 o'clock bedtime. I don't know if it was that way for you or not. 8 o'clock bedtime, and then we had to be up by 6 a.m. We had to get our beds made, get
Yeah.
dressed, go to
Mm-hmm.
breakfast. If we had meds, go get them, go to the dorm, brush our teeth, get our book bags on,
Right. It
get
was
out the door, and go to
very
school.
structured. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then in the afternoon, I would get out of school, go to the dorm. The rec hall wasn't open until like 7:30 at night when I was
Uh-huh.
there. I mean, they had like afternoon activities in the rec. So yeah, you had your hour of rec before supper, and then you had another hour after, at night. And then, as I got older, I'm sure you may have, I don't know if you experienced this or not, but do you remember the KSB work program? Did you get to experience something like that?
I heard of it, but I didn't. I never did it. But I think I've heard of people like they would have different jobs. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes. I actually did that for several, let's see, 98 to, I think the last like 3 or 4 years I was
uh,
there. I was on that work program. I worked in the rec building, ironically
yeah,
enough. The whole time I was there, I worked at the rec building, and I was also a DJ for the radio
yeah.
station. I did that. So, I got to do that too. So, the independent dorm program, did you ever get to experience that as an older student
Yeah, that
by
that was
chance? If so, what was it
that
like
was
for
real
you?
neat. I mean, I did that my junior year, and that was a real neat experience to live in a kind of like a house with two other girls, and you learned cooking skills and shopping and just being independent, and it was a neat experience.
Nice. When I was there, for me, it was a bit different. We were in Evans Hall. I'm sure you remember Hauser
Yeah.
Hall back when it was built back in '83. I started out there, and then we had Huntoon. Do you remember Huntoon
Yes.
Dorm? Okay. Did you by chance get to stay in Huntoon, or did you just get to see it across
Well,
campus?
I was there as far as when they would have like open house things. So yeah, I was in the dorm, but you know, yeah.
Never a resident.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, I was there in '88. They were using it, and then in '92 they tore it
Mm-hmm.
down. I don't know if you remember this or not, but they tore Huntoon down in 1992 to make way for a newer, more modern dormitory, and they built Evans Hall. And to all the listeners out there, and I don't know if you got the chance to see Evans Hall or not,
No.
but I'm going to describe that for you. And you would go in these two double doors. You would walk in, and you would see this welcome mat type thing. Then you would walk forward, and there would be two more double doors. Then you would see this beautiful tile flooring, and then you would have this red and white floor carpet, and then you had the snack bar vending area. You had the conference room. You had Mr. Rux and Mr. Rich's office, the study center, the new study center, and then you had the radio station. Which I don't know if you remember this or not, but when I remember the old WEAR, do you remember that station?
I don't. I remember there was a station there when I was there, but I don't know what the name of the call letters were.
It might have been WEAR. It was in the rec back when they initially had it. And it was a big deal. I mean, everybody was all about it, So when we moved over to Evans Hall, the station moved over there. We went from antenna modulation to frequency modulation, AM to FM, and I got to be in 1999, and 1999, I got to be a DJ for the school station. I finally got to do it. And oh yeah, and during my tenure of independent living, I was in Evans, so we didn't have a house; it was apartments per se. And they didn't put me in with a bunch of the older guys. They put me in with a guy named Daniel Johnson. I don't know if any of you guys and gals out there know who he is, but Daniel was my roommate for the 2000 to 2001 school year. And Daniel was a very good person, but they put me and him together, and it was a good pairing because he didn't want to party and all that garbage. He wanted to focus on his work, just like I did. And well, I should have been a little more focused because I was a little more interested in the radio station, I was more wanting to go on the air and play music and have fun, in a good way. So, we had that. And then, let's see. Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure sports will be starting up again. Do you have any KSB sports memories you would like to share?
I wish that I would have been more involved in track or swimming or things like that. But I didn't really participate in those type things. I wish I would have now, but back then I was not really into sports. As I grew older, I became more of a sports fan. But that's one of the regrets I have, is that I didn't do more of that kind of stuff.
For me, when I was younger, I joined the junior varsity wrestling team. I was attracted to wrestling like a fish attracted to water. I just loved it. I fell in love with it. When I was younger, I got kind of a funny story. You'll probably get a kick out of this. I thought the wrestling at KSB was like the WWF back in the day. I'm like, is it like WWF? And Coach, you remember Kenny Jones? He goes, no, that's fake. I was like, what? Fake? And so my first year of wrestling, I was 5, right? And I quit like after a week. And Coach was like, well, why did you quit? And I just, at the time, I didn't like it. I was only 5 years old, I thought of being away from home, one weekend. No. So then, I stuck it out, and then in 91, I began wrestling and I just stuck it out. And, the payoff for me was do you remember the junior varsity red versus white
Yes.
wrestling tournaments? I do too. Do you have any fond memories of those?
I remember just being little, and being
Mm-hmm.
you'd have to cheer. You'd be a cheerleader for one of the teams, the red team or the white team. So I
Oh
remember
yeah,
doing that when I was little.
yeah, I remember that too. And I wrestled my first wrestling match in 1991, and I beat the guy in a minute and 23 seconds. So a year later in 92, I beat the guy in like 23 seconds. So then after that, I took a few years break. I know this is the Labor Day podcast, back to school, but I want to kind of throw some sports memories in there too. Um, I go back in 96, 97. I joined the varsity wrestling team. Okay, I thought I was the big man on campus
Yeah.
then. Varsity wrestling. Do you remember? Do you have any memories of maybe being in cheerleading or swimming or anything like that back in your
I
day?
remember.
Or did you have any friends that
Uh,
was?
I remember being in classes with the different wrestlers, and you'd hear them talk about having to, some would have to try to eat a lot to make their weight, whatever weight,
Mm-hmm.
like there was a 105 or 112 or 90
Mm-hmm.
something, and then some would have to try to lose weight, and so it was just interesting to hear the
Mm-hmm.
different conversations of what you know. And the one thing I liked about sports was they would always have the pep rallies. So for an
Oh
hour or
yeah.
so, or however long that pep rally lasted, you would get out of class and you'd get to go to the gym and hear them talk about the upcoming meet and everything. So,
Yes, and they had a band. They had a
oh
rock
yes,
band that would
yes,
play different
mm-hmm.
music, popular rock music from
Oh
the
yes,
time.
and that was neat. And I thought that band was so good when I would hear them, like in the '70s, and they play songs like "Proud Mary" and the drum,
Oh
electric
yeah,
guitar, and they were the big time.
it 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 got the people pumped, and I remember uh every summer, and back to our topic here, back to school. At the end of every summer, it would kind of stink that summer was over, but I knew going back into school, you had that to look
Yeah.
forward to
Mm-hmm.
around September,
Mm-hmm.
October. Because this is about the time I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. If track is starting up, I
Yeah,
think.
that would start in right when school would start is when they would do track.
Yeah, so then prep rallies were right around
Mm-hmm.
this time.
Yeah.
And man, oh man, in my day, the band played. Let's see, they played songs by Green Day. They played songs by Seven Red
Mm-hmm.
Three, some of the modern bands of
Yeah.
the era. No Judas Priest, unfortunately. No Black Sabbath, unfortunately. Which personal my eclectic taste, but it had to be
Yeah. Yeah.
appropriate for all listeners. So, not that those groups had any profane language, but I kind of doubt the singers at that time could hit Rob Halford's
Yeah.
high notes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, okay. Do you have any fond memories or stories you would like to share of the food of KSB? Coming back, from home cooked food to school food. Do you have any fond memories of that?
Well, it was different. I mean, it was typical school food, and I remember when I was uh, maybe 5 years old, and my mom and I had gone to KSB to I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
she went to check it out or why she was with me, but anyway, we had hamburgers, and they had put
Mm-hmm.
pepper on the hamburger, and I didn't like the pepper, and I said, "Yuck, I don't like that." And whoever the cook was, she took a paper towel, and wiped off all that pepper from that hamburger, just so I wouldn't have to eat the pepper. So I thought that was neat, and nice of her to do that. So
Oh yeah. I remember when I was there. Yeah, they would pepper up their food, and they would, the hamburgers. I don't know what it was, if it was real meat or what, but them suckers would
yeah.
bounce. They would bounce. We called them bouncy burgers. And did you have a particular favorite cook at
Well, I
KSB?
remember Cora.
I do
That's one I do remember.
too.
Yes.
Yes, and Irene. I remember Irene, Cora. Miss Ann Thompson, Nisha Lee. I remember Denise a lot. There's so many I could name off in this podcast. And then let's see. As for me in school food, the one thing I loved was the taco salad.
Well, the one thing that we always loved was the pizza. Whenever
Oh
they would have the
man,
pizza, and then another thing
nice.
was the chicken, the fried chicken, and then they would always have fish on Friday.
Yeah, I remember that too. Fish
Yeah.
Fridays. Yes. Um, yes. So, do you have any? Okay, so as you know, and we both experienced this. We lived on campus. Do you have any fond memories of living on campus as far as house parents? Were there any house parents you liked, and were there any that you didn't like?
I had the ones I had when I first started out were Miss Berry and Miss Kelly, and they were
Mm-hmm,
just sweet, wonderful older ladies. They were both
mm-hmm,
Christian ladies. They
mm-hmm,
would Miss Berry in particular would read us, stories from the Bible, Old Testament, and
mm-hmm.
they were just both. If you had to be away from home, they were just kind of like your mommy away from home or your granny away from home, and just did a lot to help people to overcome the homesickness and just real good. And then Miss Davis, when I was at Merwin, she was a great house parent.
For me, I would say my favorite house parent was, or house parents were the late Elizabeth Oaks and the late Pat
Mm-hmm.
Wheatley. When I was younger, and then when I was older, the late Brenda
Yeah,
Bailey.
I remember Miss Oaks. I liked her. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Do you remember how the house parents would rotate weekly, not daily, but weekly?
Yeah, they would have on when I was going. They would have like a. It was just one would be there Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they'd leave, and the other one would be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they would rotate the weekends. So,
I believe that's how they did it when I started. Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they would switch
yeah,
each week. And then it became you would have a nighttime house parent and then an
yeah,
afternoon.
yeah. When I was there, they
And then
had just the one house parent that stayed with you the whole time.
nice. Do you remember? Did you ever have any experiences with a lady named Miss Alexander?
No, I didn't. No.
I had her as a morning dorm parent, and I could just tell you bukus of stories about her. She was a very kind person, very Christian oriented person, but she was one you did not want to cross. If you crossed her or if you got on her bad side, it took a lot to get her back. You had to earn that
Uh-huh.
trust back. You had to. Were there any house parents like that back in your day?
Well, there was one that was real strict and never really tried to associate with the kids. She scared you to death. I mean, she just was
Mm-hmm.
very intimidating and just she basically stayed in her room and smoked
Mm-hmm.
and everything all the time and just really didn't have the type personality that she should have been a house parent. I mean, it was just like you hated to have to go ask her to if you could call home or to do anything, but that was only one bad experience, but the rest of them were great.
For me, as far as strict house parents, like that, the way you described, I wouldn't say any of them were like that. They were all good, caring people. Yeah, they were strict. One Miss Pat Sanders, but you know they were preparing you
Yeah,
for life. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
I
They were
didn't. It's
preparing.
fine to be strict, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah, come on. So, well, as you know, it's fall or gonna be fall. Do you have any fond fall memories or funny fall KSB stories that you would like to share?
Well, I remember just around Halloween, and we would have you know trick or treat or bob for apples. We did that kind of thing, and
Mm,
uh, you know, just I remember a lot of Halloween candy and costumes, and I remember one year I was Casper the Ghost for Halloween.
nice. Um, we did that too. We did Halloween dances. We had haunted houses. We had let's see, the final year I was there, I was in the independent dorm, so I was putting on the haunted house, helping put it on, and I was the one of the monsters in the house, scaring the little
Mm-hmm.
kids, very good time. Uh, all right. So, when you were at KSB, PE, do you remember Coach Mann?
Yes, he was actually never my coach, but he was my gym teacher.
He was mine too. I kind of talked to him just a few weeks ago. I don't know if you've been reading on the KSB Alumni group, but if you have, you kind of know what's up with him and what he's been
Right.
going through. I called him up, and he told me what was going on. And I got emotional. I told him, I said, thank you for what you've done for me and what he did. And then when I called him the second time, I told him, thank you for teaching me all about being, successful and being a man. And there was one story that I'm gonna not really elaborate on here, but I'm gonna do this when the next KSB theme podcast comes up, which will be in December. And he kind of taught me the true meaning of Christmas in a new perspective. But again, that's for
Yeah.
another time.
Well, he was a great guy, and I
Oh yeah.
remember, and he would have these football cards for the high school students that wanted to do it, and they would pick the games, and I guess they got maybe a candy bar, whoever won the whoever got the most games right, and he would and kickball. He was, you wanted to be on his kickball team because he could kick the ball just almost out of the building.
Yeah, he could kick the ball, and I remember having him as gym teacher. He was what I call a straight shooter. He said what he meant what he said, and that's
Oh
the way
yeah,
it was. And
he was definitely, he was one of those people you didn't want to get on his bad side either.
no, no, I did not do that. So for those who are listening, kind of an unrelated topic here, but thoughts and prayers out to you, Coach. I hope you get well soon. So, Missy, do you have any funny stories or fun stories of your first days of KSB, your first days of school at the School for the Blind?
Well, one of the craziest things I ever did was when I was about 7 years old, and we were learning how to grow things, and they gave us peas to hold in our hand, and for some strange reason, I thought it'd be a good idea to put the pea in my ear. And so I put it in my ear, and they were like, "Where's your pee?" And I said, "What's in my ear?" And it got stuck in there. The nurse couldn't get it out, and they had to actually take me to a hospital and have the doctor get it out for me. So,
Ouch.
and my husband told me, he said, "Well, you haven't been able to hear out of that ear right ever since." So,
I don't think your dad was too thrilled about that.
yeah,
Was
he was like, he came to pick me up. It was on a Friday afternoon, and they told him what had happened. So,
oh no. So I do have some funny stories myself about that. We went to this rock quarry type thing. They were making a sculpture. I don't know if you've got to see it, but for anyone who's listening, the shoe. Anyone that goes to KSB now or went back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s will know what I'm talking about. That marble and granite sculpture. It looks like a shoe. Well, we were there when they were picking out the rocks for it. I took one of them rocks and I threw that thing, and I remember it was Miss Patty Dilg. She goes, "You quit throwing them rocks right now." And I was like, "Okay, I'll quit." So that was a fun time. And then we had a thing in the kindergarten classroom called the weenie worm, and it was basically a water balloon in the shape of a worm. And I would, I kept squeezing it and filling with it. It busted. Water goes everywhere, and she's mad because I busted the weenie worm, and she was not thrilled. So Missy, do you have any type of stories you would like to share as it relates to being an older KSB student, being in the dorm, and maybe having a few practical jokes or playing a few practical jokes on some of the other students?
well, I don't really remember. I was thinking about memories, and I remember, and this was when I was younger, that I have a twin sister, and I don't think this would happen in this day and time, but somehow she got to come and spend a few days with me at the end of school, like for 2 or 3 days. And it was right before school got out for the summer. And yeah, it was just neat to have her with me those couple of days. But I just as far as practical jokes, I don't remember anything like that. But I do remember the field days when we would have those, and we would play with the water balloons too and toss them at each other. So that was quite interesting to see blind people trying to do that, toss them.
Oh, wow. I remember when I was there for one of the summer programs, since we are kind of technically still in the summer season, technically. I mean, we're going to be transitioning to fall soon, but I was there for a summer program, and we had this thing where you had a water balloon with shaving cream on it. You had to take a spoon, wipe that cream off, and hope to God that the water balloon didn't bust. Well, here I was, the cream had wiped off, and you could still feel the cream on the water balloon. I'm running. I'm like, God, don't let it bust. Don't let it bust. It was slipping and sliding, and eventually I think it busted and went everywhere. I was like, oh, and we all had a good time. And, there were some students that their water balloons were bust in their face. And,
well, people got crazy around when it was about time to go home for the summer. I mean, people got crazy because you were just excited about getting to go home. And there was all kinds of shenanigans that went on that people did,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they knew they could get away with it, see. That was the thing. Back right now this time, you're going on getting back into school. You couldn't get away with any of it because they wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow it. So, do you have any words of wisdom to the KSB students that are there for the 2020-2021 school year? I know we're in the midst of a pandemic right now. And, congratulations and kudos to the class of 2020 that graduated back in May. But do you have any advice or words of wisdom for the class of 2020-2021 that are there currently?
Well, I just, as I said earlier, I do wish that I would have done more as far as participating in the sports programs, but I was very active in the music things that went on, the chorus and that kind of stuff. But I think, just there might be times that you don't like some of the things that go on. There might be times you think the teachers are too strict, or you don't like being away from home. But I think the older you get, you'll look back one day and appreciate all the teachers did for you. You'll appreciate getting to learn Braille, getting to learn the independent skills, getting to learn the computer, and just have all the work experiences and the memories. I mean, there's friends that I made at KSB that I still have. So it's just, I think sometimes you don't appreciate things until you get older, and you can look back and say, I really got a good education. I was around a lot of good people that had taught me a lot of good values. So it's just, it's worth it all in the end, even though you might not see it at the time.
Oh, yes. And for me, I do have some words of wisdom for the 2020-2021 school year students of all ages. As Missy said, there's going to be days when you hate it, you don't want to be there, you're not going to want it, but just stick it out. Don't let it drag you down, because it will be worth it in the end. I mean, you guys and ladies and gentlemen are a part of history right now at KSB, because you're doing school virtually and everything is done, virtual and all of that. I remember, I'm sure you remember this too, Missy. We did it in person. We were in the classrooms. We did it the OG way. Now, these kids now are doing it virtually and getting to really blaze trails and do things that we never got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, to all you KSB students that are there for the 2020 to 2021 school year, I wish you good luck.
Yes.
Do the best you can. I know it's kind of a rough situation right now with things in the world, but it'll get better. And once it gets better and things get back to rolling, you all will get to experience a very good experience at KSB. And I hope that KSB is around for several years to come. I just, I want it to stick around, because it needs to be around. I mean, it's like one of those staples in history. It needs to be there. And, you know, if they were to say, hey, they're going to shut their doors tomorrow or whatever, I would be devastated because, you know, like you, I grew up there. I learned a lot of life skills there. And yeah, there were teachers and people I didn't like, but you know what? I look back on it fondly and I laugh and I smile because where I work, you know, it prepared me for the
Yes.
real world and it prepared me for what I do today with work and that kind of thing. So, Missy, real quick, do you have any final thoughts before I wrap things up and get this thing out to the world?
Well, I just appreciate you having me on, and I think it's great to share memories. It brought back memories that I hadn't thought of in a long time, and so I'm thankful to have been a part of this, and appreciate those at KSB in the past, and those who are there now, and just for students and teachers that have to get through these difficult times. Just hang in there, and one day you're all going to have some memorable stories to tell as you pass on your wisdom to other people.
Oh, yes. Okay, so real quick to all listeners, I do want to say thank you to Missy Ryder for being a guest on the Blindside Podcast. This has been the KSB Words of Wisdom Back to School edition. The next podcast will be about a something I think that everyone will like. I'll reveal that later on, possibly on Twitter or something. So if you haven't done so, go over to Twitter at Blind Metal Gamer and hit that follow button. It's all free. So until next time, so long everyone. Stay healthy and stay safe. And I'll see you next time on The Blind Side. Good night.